This is Dylan from British English Coach, and this is another video in the Master Polite English course. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to express disappointment in a polite way, of course. So as always, we will start with a definition. So first of all, disappointed is the feeling you have when something was not as good as you had expected or hoped. For example, when I was 7, I was really excited about my Christmas present. I thought I was going to get a bicycle, and my parents bought me a pair of shoes. I was really disappointed. In fact, I still feel the pain now, many years later. So, disappoint is the verb, and disappointment is the noun, disappointment. So you can feel disappointed, or you can say, I felt disappointment when something happened. Both are okay. Let's look at a situation. So imagine you go to a concert and you're really excited about seeing the singer. You may recognize this singer. This is the American singer, Mariah Carey, I think. I've never seen her live, but I've heard she's an interesting performer. So in this situation, you went to a concert. The tickets were really expensive, and you were really looking forward to the show. Now, the tickets were bought for you, and so you've got to be a bit careful about expressing your disappointment because the show really wasn't very good. Maybe the performer didn't play the songs you wanted to hear, or the sound was terrible, or the audience were very rude to the singer. I don't know. Lots of things can happen at a concert. So here are some things that you could say to express disappointment politely. I must say I was hoping for something better, or I must say I was expecting something different. I must say I was hoping for something better, or I must say I was expecting something different. You could say, to be honest, I have to say I found the concert a little disappointing. To be honest, I have to say I found the concert a little disappointing. Perhaps, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it wasn't as good as I'd hoped. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it wasn't as good as I'd hoped. Okay, now, in English, it's possible to say, I hope you don't mind me saying, or I hope you don't mind my saying this. Both are more or less accepted now. Other phrases include, if I'm honest, I found it a little underwhelming. So underwhelming is where something wasn't as good as you expected, or when something was disappointing. If I'm honest, I found it a little underwhelming. Or, well, I was really looking forward to it, but it wasn't quite as good as I'd hoped. Well, I was really looking forward to it, but it wasn't quite as good as I'd hoped. Possibly, it was much less dynamic than I'd expected. It was much less dynamic than I'd expected. Maybe I was a little tired, so I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I wanted. Maybe I was a little tired, so I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I wanted. See, in the last phrase, we're actually making up a little bit of an excuse to justify why we didn't really enjoy it. So now it's your turn. Let's think about some other situations so we can practice. So we have a few situations. How would you express disappointment in these situations? So let's look at the first one. You went to an expensive restaurant, but the service was poor and the food was bland. Bland is a word we use, an adjective we use to describe not only food, but things which aren't very special. They're very boring. In this case, when we talk about food being bland, we mean to say that it doesn't really have much of a taste. It's tasteless. Not bad, just without taste. So what could you say in this situation? Meeting. You had a meeting with a potential client, but it didn't go very well. Or situation 3, an exam. You had a very important test, but the results were not very impressive. So again, think about what you could say in these situations, and then in a moment you can listen to the audio, examples of what I might say, and then of course you can check with the script if you're not sure. So again, I'm going to give you some examples of what you can say to express disappointment. Listen to the recording and repeat what I say. Do some shadow speaking. It will help you practice your muscle memory in this case. And copy the stress and intonation until you can repeat it naturally by yourself. So, situation 1, you went to a restaurant, an expensive one, but the service was poor and the food was bland. You could say, well, I was really looking forward to the meal, but it wasn't quite as tasty as I'd hoped. Well, I was really looking forward to the meal, but it wasn't quite as tasty as I'd hoped. Or, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it really wasn't as good as I'd expected. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it wasn't really quite as good as I'd expected. In a meeting, you had a meeting with a potential client, but it didn't go very well. Because the client maybe was much less interested in your product than you'd expected. So you could say, maybe I was a little too hopeful, but I didn't think the meeting went as well as I'd expected. Maybe I was a little too hopeful, but I didn't think the meeting went as well as I'd expected. Or, if I'm honest, it didn't go particularly well, did it? If I'm honest, it didn't go particularly well, did it? And in an exam, you had an important test, but the results were not very impressive. I must say I was expecting better results, but in the end, they weren't anything special. Or, to be honest, I have to say I found my result rather disappointing. To be honest, I have to say I found my results rather disappointing. Okay, so again, there are lots of options here, lots of choices. The important thing is that you practice those phrases, you think about how you could use them in lots of different situations until they become quite natural and you become automatic when you need to express disappointment. So again, spend a few minutes practicing those phrases, and then when you're ready, you can move on to the next lesson. So I hope to see you soon for the next lesson. Bye for now.